You're watching Elderly Wisdom Nexus, where real stories spark reflection, strength, and sometimes, solitude. Before we dive in, if you're someone who values life's deeper truths, subscribe now and join us on this journey of honesty and healing. I'm 65. I avoid people now. Not because I hate anyone, and not because I think I'm better. I avoid people because life has taught me some hard truths, and solitude. Well, it's become my sanctuary. When I was younger, I thrived on connection. I was the first to show up and the last to leave. I gave my time, my energy, and often, my peace, just to maintain relationships I thought mattered. I believed that being surrounded by people meant I was loved, valuable, and needed. But over time, that illusion shattered. The first crack. It came slowly, through conversations that felt one-sided. I began to notice I was listening more than I was heard. I was offering support but rarely receiving it. People came to me when they needed something, but disappeared when I needed them. That's when I realized, not everyone in your life is really with you. Then came the phase of birthdays forgotten, important moments overlooked, and feelings dismissed. I'd bring up something painful and it would be brushed off with phrases like, "Don't be so sensitive," or "Everyone's dealing with something." And they were right, everyone is dealing with something. But that doesn't mean my pain didn't matter. It just meant I was surrounded by people who couldn't, or wouldn't, hold space for me. I stopped reaching out. Not to punish anyone. Not out of bitterness. I just got tired. Tired of being the one who always tried. Tired of pretending that things were okay when they weren't. Tired of feeling lonelier in a crowd than I ever did in an empty room. When I turned 60, something shifted. I began to notice how much noise there was, constant chatter, drama, opinions, complaints. Everyone wanted to talk, but very few wanted to understand. I began craving silence more than conversation, peace more than socializing. So, I started avoiding people. Not in an angry way, but in a protective way. I stopped picking up the phone for people who drained me. I politely declined invitations that didn't feel genuine. I stopped explaining myself to those who never tried to understand me in the first place. And something unexpected happened. I began to heal. I started enjoying my own company. I read more. I walked more. I sat with my thoughts and listened to my body. I cooked meals slowly, watched sunsets, and took naps without guilt. I found joy in the simplest things. Things that didn't need an audience or applause. But make no mistake, I still love people. I still believe in kindness. I still hold space for real connection. I just don't chase it anymore. Avoiding people gave me a clearer view of myself. I saw how often I bent my boundaries just to keep others comfortable. How often I silenced my truth to keep the peace. How often I said yes when my soul was screaming no. Now, at 65, I value something far more precious than popularity. I value peace. And not everyone protects it the way I do. So I keep my circle small. I choose who gets access to me. And I no longer feel guilty about that. You may be wondering, does it get lonely? Sometimes, yes. But I'd rather sit alone in honesty than surround myself with people who make me feel unseen. There's a strange kind of grief that comes with outgrowing people. It's not loud or dramatic. It's quiet. Slow. Like a chapter closing in a book you once loved. You begin to notice the mismatched energy. The way the conversations feel forced. The way you leave gatherings more tired than fulfilled. The silence between messages grows longer. The check-ins disappear. You're not angry. Just done. I used to fight to keep people in my life. I thought that if I let go, it meant I failed. That I gave up too easily. That if I just tried harder, explained better, or loved more, things would go back to how they were. But here's what I learned. Some relationships expire. Not because either person is evil. Not because there's a huge fight or betrayal. Sometimes, you just grow in different directions. Your needs evolve. Your values shift. And that's okay. I had friends I laughed with for years. We shared birthdays, holidays, memories that felt permanent. But as I started changing, choosing calm over chaos, self-reflection over gossip, those friendships started to fade. We no longer met in the same emotional space. I stopped needing to be everywhere. I stopped needing to be liked. I started needing peace, and very few people can sit with that kind of quiet. You see, a lot of people don't realize how much noise they carry until you step away from it. The constant venting, the drama, the complaining. It's like a weight you don't notice until it's lifted. I remember one moment clearly. I was having coffee with someone I'd known for decades. They spent the entire time talking about other people, judging, criticizing, analyzing lives that weren't theirs. I sat there, nodding, sipping slowly, realizing I no longer belonged in that conversation. I left, and I never reached out again. That wasn't anger. That was clarity. Avoiding people doesn't mean you're bitter. It means you're healing. It means you're choosing your own company over energy that drains you. It means you finally understand that your time, your presence, your attention, they're valuable. And not everyone deserves them. I began applying this idea everywhere. Even family. Especially family. Because sometimes the people closest to you are the most entitled to your energy. They expect access, regardless of how they treat you. But I had to ask myself, what is the cost of constant tolerance? My peace. My self-worth. My joy. So I made peace with disappointing others. I made peace with being misunderstood. I no longer explained why I didn't come to the party. Why I didn't call back. Why I didn't engage. If they couldn't see that I was protecting my peace, then they never really knew me at all. Avoiding people gave me space to reconnect with myself. To sit with my thoughts without interference. To decide, truly, who I was becoming. And in that stillness, I found something beautiful. I found self-trust. I used to ask others, what do you think I should do? Now, I ask myself, what do I truly want? I used to need validation to feel confident. Now, I validate myself, through integrity, through rest, through authenticity. I still love connection. But I want deeper connection. Honest connection. Conversations that feed the soul, not just fill the air. Presence, not performance. And that's rare. That's why I no longer seek it everywhere. I don't avoid people because I'm broken. I avoid people because I finally realized how whole I am on my own. One of the most surprising things I've learned in this season of solitude is how loud the world truly is, and how quiet we become when we're constantly surrounded by others. When you're always in conversation, always performing, always responding, you lose the sound of your own soul. But once you step away, once you sit in a room without noise, without expectations, without the pressure to please, you begin to hear yourself again. I heard parts of me I'd silenced for decades. Dreams I buried because life got busy. Opinions I suppressed to keep the peace. Feelings I ignored because someone else's needs always came first. And when you start to truly hear yourself, you also start to heal. You realize that so much of your pain didn't come from being alone. It came from being surrounded by the wrong people. There's a kind of loneliness that hides inside connection, the loneliness of not being understood. Of being in a room full of people and still feeling like no one really sees you. That kind of loneliness is heavier than silence. At 65, I no longer force myself to belong in places where I feel invisible. I don't adjust my truth to make others comfortable. I don't shapeshift to fit into groups that never felt like home. I avoid people because I now see what I used to ignore. The subtle jabs disguised as jokes. The constant need to compete or compare. The expectation to give endlessly, without receiving the same care in return. I no longer have the energy to explain myself to those committed to misunderstanding me. And I don't feel guilty for walking away from one-sided connections. Let me tell you something else that changed. The more I embraced solitude, the more I attracted people who matched that peace. Not many, but a few. And that's all I need. These days, the people in my life are the ones who respect silence, who don't need constant validation, who know how to sit in stillness without filling it with empty words. They don't expect me to be on all the time. They don't drain me. They see me. And that kind of connection, rooted in respect, in stillness, in depth, is worth waiting for. You see, when you avoid people, you're not closing the door forever. You're simply raising your standards. You're saying, I love people, but I love my peace more. I care about connection, but I won't settle for chaos. I want to give love, but not at the cost of losing myself. There's power in being selective, in knowing that your time is sacred, in realizing that not everyone deserves access to you just because they once had it. This is not bitterness. This is not resentment. This is maturity. This is healing. This is wisdom earned through decades of giving too much, forgiving too fast, and finally choosing to slow down and reclaim your space. Avoiding people doesn't mean you've given up on the world. It means you've finally remembered your own worth. It means you've stopped chasing love that comes with conditions. It means you've stepped into a season of life where peace is the prize, not popularity. And if you're someone who feels the same way, someone who's choosing stillness over noise, solitude over stress, real connection over superficial bonds, you're not alone. You're not broken for wanting space. You're not selfish for setting boundaries. You're simply becoming who you were always meant to be, before the world told you to shrink, to serve, to stay quiet. You're finally honoring your own soul. Sometimes, people ask me, don't you miss having a full house? Don't you miss the buzz of conversations, the invitations, the gatherings? And yes, I miss pieces of it. I miss the laughter, when it was real. I miss the company, when it was comforting. I miss the presence of people who didn't need me to shrink in order to feel seen. But what I don't miss the pressure to perform. I don't miss the subtle judgments. I don't miss keeping up with relationships that were only alive because I kept pouring into them while getting nothing back. You see, the world doesn't talk enough about how exhausting social obligation can be. How draining it is to constantly give your time, your attention, yourself, without rest, without balance. How heavy it feels to be surrounded by people and still feel empty inside. I've learned that not everyone deserves your vulnerability. Not everyone earns the right to know your story. Some people only come close to satisfy their own needs, curiosity, gossip, convenience. They don't ask how you're really doing. They don't sit in your silence. They just visit when it's easy, when it's fun, when you're useful. So now, I only make room for the ones who make room for me. The older I get, the more sacred my energy becomes. I protect it like a flame in the wind, because I've seen how quickly it can be dimmed by the wrong presence. And I've seen how brightly it can burn when I'm alone, in peace, doing things that nourish my soul instead of deplete it. These days, I wake up slowly. I stretch. I breathe. I take my coffee in silence. No rush. No need to check my phone. No need to explain myself to anyone. I walk through my home like it's a sanctuary, because it is. Not just a place to live, but a place to heal. I fill my time with books, music, memories, and moments of stillness. And when I talk to someone, it's because I want to, not because I feel obligated. That is freedom. That is peace. And that is why, at 65, I avoid people now. Because I've spent a lifetime learning that not all company is comforting. Not all conversation is connection. Not all smiles are sincere. And now, in this chapter, I choose something else. I choose calm. I choose depth. I choose truth. And most of all, I choose me. If you've made it this far, thank you. Maybe you're younger, maybe older. Maybe you're still figuring out who deserves your presence. But I hope, in hearing this, you realize. It's okay to step back. It's okay to grow apart. It's okay to protect your peace, even if no one else understands. Because the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing to hear more truth-telling from voices that have lived, loved, lost, and learned. Leave a comment if you've ever felt the same. And remember, peace isn't selfish. It's sacred. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. And never be afraid to walk away from what no longer feels like home.